The colony skies burned before the alarms even stopped ringing. On Arrivos 3, dawn never broke, just a wall of fire rolling across the horizon as the Crothul dropped acid canisters through the upper atmosphere. The greenish clouds ignited into violent storms, and every surface, metal, stone, flesh, sizzled beneath the chemical rain. Commander Elias Vance stood on the fractured bridge of the Resolute, one hand pressed to a cut dripping down his temple. The cruiser shook around him, consoles sparking, the lights dimming under repeated strikes. "Forward shields gone," reported Ensign Vey, voice tight with panic. "Port side hull breached on decks 7 through 9. Casualty reports still coming in." Vance leaned over the central display, which flickered with distorted projections of the battle. Human defense ships scattered in broken formation, pursued by thick clusters of Crothul vessels. The enemy moved like blades of living metal, sleek and curved, swarming in coordinated arcs. "They cut us apart too fast," Vance muttered, more to himself than to his crew. "It's not a battle, it's a slaughter." A proximity alert blared. The display zoomed, revealing a wave of Crothul swarmers detaching from a destroyer and streaking toward the Resolute. These weren't warships, they were organic boarding craft, their shells glowing with acidic residue, wings folding in tight. "Swarmers inbound. 5 seconds to contact." Vance's jaw tightened. "Seal bulkheads. Arm all squads. We're not giving them the ship without bleeding them for it." The impact came like a thunderclap. The Resolute lurched as the swarmers latched on, drilling through with mandibles reinforced by biometal plating. The sound of rending hull filled the corridors, followed by the shriek of decompression. "Boarders," Vance said flatly. "This is it." The calm crackled, Sergeant Davin Holt's voice filtering through static. Groundside, he was directing evacuations, his tone as dry as sandpaper even under fire. "Commander, your ship looks uglier than my ex. Got a plan, or should I tell these colonists to start writing their wills? Just get them underground, Holt. We'll hold the skies as long as we can. I'll tell them we've got about as much chance as a snowball on Mercury then." Vance almost smiled. Holt's sarcasm was armor, not weakness. Humanity survived with humor sharpened into steel. The bridge doors shuddered. Screeches echoed down the hall as clawed limbs tore through reinforced plating. The first Crothul warrior emerged, a towering insectoid, its carapace a mottled black-green, multiple eyes gleaming with cold malice. Its forelimbs ended in serrated scythes. "Fire!" Vance barked. Pulse rifles cracked, blue bolts tearing into the warrior's torso. It shrieked, acid spraying from its wounds, corroding deck plates. Another burst finished it, dropping the creature in twitching spasms. More pushed through, hissing in unison, mandibles clattering like knives. "Fall back position!" Vance shouted. He drew his sidearm and fired into the fray, each shot precise. The Resolute's corridors filled with smoke and acidic mist, crew fighting in brutal, close-quarters chaos. A young lieutenant screamed as a Crothul blade severed her arm. Vance hauled her back and emptied his pistol into the warrior's head until it split. Amid the carnage, his eyes caught a ruptured coolant line above the doorway. A plan clicked instantly. "They overload that coolant line, vent it into the corridor." The ensign hesitated. "Sir, we'll do it." A jet of supercooled vapor erupted, coating the advancing Crothul in frost. Their carapaces cracked under the temperature shock. Crew fire shredded them into shards. The sudden silence was almost worse than the screams. The corridor steamed with evaporating frost and blood. Vance reloaded, hands steady despite the adrenaline. "They want us broken," he muttered, eyes narrowing. "But we don't break." The calm flared again, this time with Admiral Orl's clipped voice from orbit. "Commander Vance, all units are ordered to retreat. Arrivos is lost. We must preserve what's left of the fleet for negotiations." "Negotiations?" Vance spat the word like poison. "Admiral, they don't negotiate. They consume." "You will comply, Commander. Bastion 9 remains our fallback. Survival demands. Survival demands we fight." Vance cut in, but Orl had already severed the channel. He slammed a fist into the console. Around him, his crew stared, waiting for orders, for some sign of certainty. "Plot course to Bastion 9, Vance said at last, voice low but unyielding. "But we'll make them pay for every inch of space we give up." The Resolute pulled away from the burning world below. On the surface, Holt's squad shepherded the last civilians into bunkers, holding off the swarm until extraction became impossible. He didn't ask for pickup, he knew none was coming. Instead, he keyed his calm, voice crackling through to Vance. "Commander, if you make it back, tell those bugs one thing for me." "What's that?" "That humans bite back." The channel cut, leaving Vance in silence. He watched Arrivos shrink behind them, a sphere wreathed in fire and smoke. On the display, Crotthul destroyers circled the planet like vultures. Whole cities collapsed in seconds, oceans boiling, forests vanishing in chemical storms. Billions of voices snuffed out in hours. Vance pressed his bloodied hand to the glass. His reflection stared back, hollow-eyed, jaw clenched, rage simmering just below the surface. "If this is hell," he whispered, "then we'll show them humans were born in fire." The Resolute limped into jump range, Hull groaning, survivors weary but unbroken. Engines flared, stars stretched, and Arrivos vanished behind them, consumed, but not forgotten. The war had begun. And for the first time, humanity had an enemy worthy of its fury. The Resolute limped into Bastion IX's orbit 2 days after Arrivos fell. The fortress world was unlike any colony Vance had seen. A ring of defense platforms hung in high orbit, bristling with cannons as thick as towers. Beneath, the planet's surface gleamed with shield arrays, manufacturing spires, and launch silos, every structure designed for war. Refugee ships crowded the approach lanes, battered freighters jostling for docking clearance. Commander Elias Vance stood at the viewport, arms crossed, jaw set. His reflection in the glass looked older than he remembered. A day of retreat had added years to his face. He told himself Arrivos was a tactical loss. The truth gnawed at him. They'd lost millions, maybe more. "Not much of a welcome," Lieutenant Sarah Jean murmured beside him. Her flight suit was scorched, her braids singed at the edges. She'd ferried evacuees until her shuttle barely held together. "It's a fortress, not a home," Vance replied. "Warmth isn't in the blueprint." On the deck below, med teams guided refugees towards stations. Children clung to scorched dolls, their eyes wide with the shock of survival. Engineers scavenged parts from wrecked transports, already patching them into defense grids. Nobody waited for orders. Every hand moved with grim efficiency. Sergeant Davin Holt appeared, limping, one arm in a sling. His grin was tired but intact. "You're late, Commander. Thought the bugs had you for breakfast." "They tried." Vance studied the soldier's bandaged side. "You should be in a med bay." "Already went. Doc said I should rest." "I told him I'd rest when the Dominion gives up, which means never." He wasn't amused. Holt glanced at the children. "Refugees are tougher than they look. One kid clocked me in the shin for trying to carry her bag. Told me she wasn't helpless. Reminded me of home." The conversation was cut short by a summons from the Planetary Council. The council chamber wasn't built for comfort. Stone walls, steel beams, a war map covering the far end. Admiral Oral presided, flanked by governors and senior officers. His uniform was crisp, voice as cold as the chamber air. "Arrivos was a loss we could not prevent," Oral began. "The Dominion's numbers dwarf ours. If we scatter forces in reckless counterattacks, we invite annihilation. Bastion 9 must hold. Negotiations with neutral powers are already underway. Survival depends on restraint." Vance's patience snapped. "Restraint? Admiral, they're not interested in treaties. Arrivos wasn't a battle, it was extermination. The Dominion won't stop until every human world looks like that." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One governor leaned forward, pale and sweating. "Perhaps a temporary surrender." "Temporary?" Vance cut in sharply. "You don't negotiate with fire, you put it out before it consumes everything." Oral's gaze hardened. Commander Vance, you are here to follow orders, not question them. I'm here to fight a war, Vance said, voice rising. If you'd seen what they did to Arivos, you'd know this isn't politics. It's survival. The tension held until Holt's voice broke it from the back. If I may, sirs, every colonist I dragged into those bunkers was ready to fight. Old men, children, anyone still breathing. You want restraint? Try telling them to sit quiet while their homes burn. The chamber fell silent. Even Oro faltered. Later, in the fortress hangars, the atmosphere was different. Mechanics swarmed over damaged craft, welding sparks flying like miniature stars. Refugees hauled crates, stripping shuttles for parts. Walls bore crude slogans: "Hell awaits, bite back, asterisk. No more retreats, asterisk." Sarah ran her hand along the fuselage of a patched fighter. "Half these ships shouldn't be airborne. They'll fly," Vance said. "They'll fall apart. Then we'll hold them together with tape and curses." Holt chuckled. "That's humanity in a nutshell." That night, Vance stood outside the command bunker, staring up at the night sky. Bastion Ix's shield shimmered faintly against the stars, a reminder of the storm coming. He thought of Arivos, families erased in hours, soldiers buried in fire. Rage simmered beneath his calm. Behind him, Sarah approached quietly. "You really think we can hold them?" "We don't have to hold," Vance answered. "We just have to hurt them badly enough they remember." Sounds like a death wish. More like a reminder. Humans aren't prey. Across the void, in the Crothall flagship, Overlord Karath sat upon a throne of bone and chitin. The chamber pulsed with bioluminescence, walls alive with crawling larvae. His lieutenants hissed reports. Arivos burned, resistance scattered. "They scatter like vermin," one drone croaked. "Yet they gnash their teeth," another added. Karath raised a claw. Silence fell. His voice was a low rasp, more vibration than sound. "The humans laugh as they die. They cling to ashes as though ashes give strength." "Curious." One lieutenant trembled. "Perhaps we should." Karatha's blade arm flashed, cutting the speaker in half. Acid hissed on the floor. "They are prey," Karath declared. "Prey that thrashes in a snare. We will crush them until their laughter turns to silence." Dawn broke on Bastion 9 with no warmth, just the rumble of mobilization. Fleet alarms echoed across hangars. Vance strode through lines of weary soldiers, their faces drawn but resolute. "Word is the Dominion fleet is on approach," Holt muttered. "They'll be here by nightfall," Vance said. Sarah adjusted her helmet, forcing a grin. "Guess we finally get to show them how nasty humans can be." Vance halted at the rally square, where soldiers and civilians alike waited. No prepared speech sat on his tongue, no rehearsed lines. He spoke as he felt. "They think we're prey. That's what they see when they look at us, something weak, something to consume. They don't understand what we are. We endure. We adapt. And when the universe pushes us to the brink, we don't break, we fight. Bastion 9 isn't just a fortress. It's the line. We hold here, or we vanish. So let's make sure when they come, they learn exactly what kind of monsters humans can be." The cheer wasn't loud, it was raw. Voices cracked, fists lifted, eyes hardened. Above them, the first glimmers of the Dominion fleet appeared against the stars. The war had reached Bastion 9. And humanity was ready to answer. The Dominion fleet arrived at dusk. From Bastion Ix's surface, the night sky shifted into a storm of black-green hulls, thousands of insected ships blotting out stars. The atmosphere trembled with their mass. Their wings unfolded, serrated silhouettes glowing with chemical thrusters. Commander Elias Vance watched from the command deck of the Resolute. His patched cruiser hovered among a dozen scarred Terran ships, each one jury-rigged to function after Arivos. They looked fragile against the Dominion armada, but their crews moved with the calm of people who had already walked through hell once. "Enemy forming trident formation," reported Ensign Vey. "Central spear aimed straight for the fortress." "Good," Vance said. "Let them come straight." It'll make hitting them easier. His humor earned a nervous chuckle from the crew. It wasn't much, but it loosened the weight pressing on every chest. The first volley shattered the calm. Crothall lances of acid energy sliced through the void, striking defense platforms. Metal screamed as stations ruptured into fire. Bastion's cannons answered with plasma barrages, streaks of blue and white punching into the swarm. Return fire, pattern Gamma, Vance ordered. Don't try to match their precision, outthink them. The Resolute veered sideways, its guns spitting bolts that scattered wide. To an outsider it looked clumsy, but the erratic volleys forced the Dominion to shift formation. Their cohesion faltered. See that? Vance pointed. They don't like messy. Let's give them messy. In the lower atmosphere, fighter wings screamed into combat. Lieutenant Sarah Jean led her squadron, patched fighters painted with crude slogans, "Eat acid, not prey, come closer." Her voice came sharp over comms. Stay unpredictable. Don't fly patterns, don't give them rhythm. Think drunk, fly sober. The swarm met them, hundreds of smaller insected craft, their wings slicing air, mandibles glistening with corrosive spray. The first clash lit the sky like fireworks. Sarah rolled her fighter between two swarmas, flipping inverted to blast one apart at point-blank range. One down. How many billion to go? Her wingmate crackled back. Don't count. Just kill. They dove together into chaos, weaving through fire, every maneuver reckless but deliberate. On the ground, Holt crouched in a trench as the earth shook under bombardment. The air was thick with dust and acrid smoke. Crothall pods slammed into the soil, splitting open to release warriors. They crawled forward, sides gleaming, shrieking battle cries that rattled bones. Positions! Holt roared, voice hoarse. Terran soldiers rose from cover, rifles steady. Plasma fire lit the battlefield, carving glowing lines across the night. Crothall fell in heaps, their bodies dissolving in acidic sprays, but more poured in. A private cursed. There's too many! Holt shot a warrior through the eye, then jammed a bayonet into another's throat. Then we'll just have to run out of bullets slower than they run out of bodies. The soldiers laughed raggedly, fear buried beneath defiance. Humanity had always fought best with death breathing down its neck. Back in orbit, Vance leaned over the tactical display. The Dominion pressed hard, overwhelming with sheer numbers. Terran losses mounted, ships burning one after another. Commander, we can't hold this line, they said. They'll carve through within the hour. Vance's eyes narrowed. Not if we tear out their nerves first. He had noticed it, moments when Dominion craft faltered, their coordination glitching whenever Terran comms interference spiked. They don't like noise, Vance said. They're hive-minded. Too much chaos scrambles them. A plan formed, reckless but necessary. Order all ships, switch to irregular jamming frequencies. Randomize everything, static bursts, signals that don't even mean anything. Flood them with chaos. The comms officer blinked. Sir, that'll interfere with our own coordination. That's the point. We're human, we thrive in disorder. They don't? The effect was immediate. Dominion formations fractured, ships colliding as their swarm mind buckled under the storm of interference. Their fire patterns grew erratic, leaving gaps for Terran ships to exploit. Sarah whooped as her fighter slipped through one of those gaps, unleashing missiles into the belly of a Dominion destroyer. It split apart in a brilliant green explosion. Didn't like that, did you? She shouted, adrenaline flooding her veins. On the ground, Holt noticed it too. Crothall warriors suddenly moved clumsily, their timing off, strikes poorly coordinated. Soldiers capitalized, mowing them down with precision fire. Whatever command's doing up there, Holt bellowed. Keep it up! They're stumbling like drunks at a wedding. His troops pressed forward, turning defense into counterattack, blades flashing in brutal close quarters. Every kill lifted morale higher, feeding the frenzy of survival. But the battle carried its price. The Resolute took hit after hit, hull plating buckling, alarms screaming. Smoke filled the bridge, and blood streaked the floor where crew had fallen. Commander, shields gone. they said through gritted teeth. Then we don't need shields, Vance replied, grim smile cutting across his battered face. We've got teeth. Another blast rocked the ship. Fires spread along the corridors. Still, Vance stood unshaken, issuing orders with iron certainty. The crew followed, their fear burned away by his resolve. As night deepened, the battlefield turned surreal. Firestorms lit the skies, rivers of molten earth glowed beneath collapsing towers. Dominion and Terran dead lay piled in grotesque mounds, yet neither side relented. In the trenches, Holt dragged a wounded soldier back behind cover, blood soaking his uniform. The young man's lips trembled. Are we winning? Holt met his gaze and forced a grin. Hell yeah, kid! Look around, you see anyone lying down quiet? That's not losing. That's what fighting looks like. Hours passed. By dawn, the Dominion had not broken Bastion 9. Their swarm pulled back slightly, regrouping, wary of the chaotic storm humans had unleashed. On the bridge of the crippled Resolute, Vance slumped into his chair, exhausted but unyielding. Fires still burned, smoke still lingered, but his voice cut through steady. They wanted hell, he said, his words carrying across the battered comms to every soldier and pilot still alive. Finally, a reason to get really nasty. The response came not in cheers but in silence, the silence of determination, of people too drained for words but too stubborn to quit. Outside, the Dominion fleet regrouped, their formations jagged, their discipline rattled. Overlord Karath himself watched from afar, mandibles grinding in frustration. For the first time, he considered the unthinkable. Perhaps these humans were not prey. On Bastion IX's scorched soil, soldiers stood amid ruins, rifles lowered, eyes locked on the smoke-stained horizon. They had survived the first storm. The war was far from over, but humanity had shown its teeth.